Right. So we had paused at this part where Baba had kind of summarized that justice is about relationships, dharma is about systems or order, and truth is about evidence. And in evidence, he had discussed how there's this evidence. Evidence is when I have understood something, I can help others understand it. If I have learned some skill, I can help others learn it. That is the evidence that I have learned it. When I have lived a certain way or lived some conduct, when I can, the evidence of that is that I can help others do that also. So these are the three levels of evidence in terms of knowledge, skills, and conduct. So he's saying that, up till now, in the human tradition, we have had this recognition of evidence in terms of skill and conduct. And that is what our education system is also made up of. But that has not been enough for us. We need evidence in terms of knowledge also. So the only evidence of knowledge is when we can help the others also see what we are seeing as clearly as we can see it. And without this evidence of knowledge, we can see that we have failed to recognize what orderly living for human beings is. So that is still important, that is necessary for us. And that is the evidence that we need to work towards. That is what corresponds to truth in this set of understanding justice, understanding dharma, and understanding truth. So knowledge that can be evidence. So we'll resume from there unless any other thoughts or questions from last time. Okay, if there aren't, then I'll resume.
कई लोग प्रयत्न भी करते होंगे, ऐसे ही मैं विश्वास रखता हूँ। अस्तित्व में सभी प्रकार की प्रयास की संभावना बनी है। कोई एक आदमी के लिए संभावना नहीं है, सर्व मानव के लिए सर्वशुभ संभावना बनी रखी हुई है।
Right. So here also said, so we must understand all these things that are to be understood. That is, we must understand what humans are, what existence is, what justice is, what humane living is. And all of these things have to be understood, and there have been attempts at understanding this before. And my attempt is also one of those attempts at which I have been successful.
तो कौन कब कहाँ कई सर्वशुभ संभावना, कोई एक आदमी के लिए संभावना नहीं है, ऐसे ही मैं विश्वास रखता हूँ। अस्तित्व में सभी प्रकार की प्रयास की संभावना बनी है।
Existence holds the capacity or the possibility of all types of attempts.
कोई एक आदमी के लिए संभावना नहीं है, सर्व मानव के लिए सर्वशुभ संभावना बनी रखी हुई है।
So this possibility doesn't exist for any one particular individual. This possibility exists in existence for all human beings to attempt universal well-being. So any of us can attempt understanding and living universal well-being, because that possibility is a reality of existence.
तो कौन कब कहाँ कैसे प्रयोग करेगा, इसको कोई निर्धारित करने के लिए इतना आसान काम नहीं है।
So who will attempt this, in which way, how, and when? That is not something that can be ascertained very easily. He's saying the possibility exists for all of us, but who will avail of that possibility, when and how, to what extent, all of that we can't ascertain.
कोई भी कहीं भी शुभ कार्य के लिए प्रयत्न कर ही सकता है। ये कुल मिलाकर के न्याय धर्म सत्य पूर्वक ही मनुष्य जो है मानवता को प्रमाणित करेगा, फलस्वरूप सुखी होता है।
So anyone can work towards universal well-being at any point, and that is that they will work towards justice, dharma, and truth, and that would be the work for universal well-being and for humane conduct, that this attempt will be completed.
ये बात समझ में आ गया।
So this is something that can be understood.
तो अनुभव के फलस्वरूप प्रामाणिकता होती है।
So now it is through anubhav or realization, or literally it means experience, which is the purest form of experience, but let's call it realization for now. So it is through realization that authenticity emerges. Authenticity, the word for authenticity in Hindi is the same as evidencement. So when you are authentic, it means that you are living on the basis of evidence. You are living out evidence of a truth. You are not just, living in a way, living based on assumptions and living based on narratives that may keep changing. Living authentically means that there is something real and stable within you, and that is what you are evidencing. So that is why pramanikta is authenticity, but pramanikta, the Hindi word, comes from praman, which is evidence. So authenticity is akin to evidencement. So it is only through realization that we can live with authenticity.
अनुभव क्या है भला पूछा जाए तो ये थोड़ी सी नुक्सा है।
But then what is this realization? If we were to ask this, then there is a little bit of detail in this.
तो जानने मानने की तृप्ति बिंदु बराबर सम अनुभव।
So the fulfillment point of knowing and acceptance equals to realization.
जानने मानने का जो तृप्ति बिंदु बनती है यही अनुभव है। हम माने रहते हैं, जानते नहीं हैं, तब हमको कोई तृप्ति मिलने वाला।
That is the point of fulfillment of understanding, of knowing as well as acceptance is realization. When we accept something but we don't understand it, don't have the knowledge of it, that leads to no fulfillment within us.
नहीं है, जानते हैं मानते नहीं हैं, तभी भी तृप्ति मिलने वाला नहीं है।
And if we know it, that is, we understand it, but we don't accept it, even then we will not find any fulfillment.
तृप्ति मिलने के लिए जानने मानने की तृप्ति बिंदु आवश्यक है।
For fulfillment, it is necessary to have the connection between knowledge and acceptance. For fulfillment, we need the fulfillment point of both knowledge and acceptance.
ये तृप्ति मिलने पर पहचानने निर्वाह करने में तृप्ति होती ही है, जबकि हम पहचानने निर्वाह करने में बहुत सारे बात किए हैं, तृप्ति क्यों नहीं मिला?
And upon getting this sort of fulfillment in knowledge and acceptance, then we naturally find fulfillment in our recognition and corresponding behavior. So there are these 4 points that have been covered before also: knowing, accepting, recognizing, and responding or corresponding. Because you respond on the basis of what you have recognized. So you are corresponding to your recognition. So he's saying it is only when knowing and acceptance has reached a fulfillment point that we can reach fulfillment also in our recognition and response.
जबकि हम पहचानने निर्वाह करने में बहुत सारे बात किए हैं, तृप्ति क्यों नहीं मिला? क्योंकि
Whereas we have done a lot of recognizing and responding up till now. So why have we not found any fulfillment in that? We haven't found it because
हम जानते मानते तो आई नहीं, बात इतनी। यदि जानते हैं तो मानते नहीं हैं, मानते हैं तो जानते नहीं हैं।
It is because we don't know and accept before that. If we know before that, if we have some knowledge, we don't accept it, and if we have acceptance, then we don't have the knowledge. Okay. So you're talking about knowing, acceptance, recognizing, and responding. And you're saying we have been doing a lot of recognition and response up till now, but we never found fulfillment in that. Why? Because that recognition and response was not preceded by knowledge and acceptance together. If we had knowledge, we would not accept it. If we had acceptance, it was without knowledge. So both need to be there for a fulfillment and recognition and response.
दो में से एक रोग मनुष्य के सिर में चढ़ाई रहती है, फलस्वरूप तृप्ति बिंदु मिलता नहीं है। इस आधार पर मनुष्य को जानने मानने की, तृप्ति बिंदु को पहचानने की आवश्यकता है। ये कैसा?
So one of these two ailments are always afflicting human beings. So what do we find? That we human beings need to understand this fulfillment point of both knowledge and acceptance.
पहचानेगा, चिंतन विधि से पहचानेगा। जो बोध हो जाता है उसके साथ अपना साक्षात्कार क्रिया को निरंतर अपने में करना शुरू करते हैं, उसका तृप्ति बिंदु मिल ही जाती है।
And how will we recognize this point of fulfillment? We will recognize it by way of contemplation. When we start to contemplate, we reach the state of sakshatkar, which we tend to translate as witnessing the realities of existence. That phenomenon is called sakshatkar. So when we start to contemplate, we begin to witness realities, and in this process of witnessing realities, when we develop the state of constantly witnessing realities, we are able to eventually reach this point of fulfillment. We are able to recognize this point of fulfillment when we have bodh. Bodh is a complete comprehension of the laws of existence.
अपने में करना शुरू करते हैं, उसका तृप्ति बिंदु मिल ही जाती है। और प्रामाणिकता के साथ तृप्ति बिंदु, उसका साक्षात्कार क्रिया को निरंतर अपने में करना शुरू करते हैं, उसका तृप्ति बिंदु मिल ही जाती है। और प्रामाणिकता के साथ तृप्ति बिंदु मिलता ही है। साक्षात्कार क्रिया को निरंतर जो बोध हो जाता है उसके साथ अपना साक्षात्कार क्रिया को निरंतर अपने में करना शुरू कर।
So when we have this comprehension, when we continue to constantly engage in this activity of witnessing, then we find that point of fulfillment between knowledge and acceptance.
करते हैं, उसका तृप्ति बिंदु मिल ही जाती है। और प्रामाणिकता के साथ तृप्ति बिंदु मिलता ही है। तो प्रामाणिकता स्वयं में प्रमाण ही है। इस ढंग से हम जो अनुभव को संप्रेषित,
and with authenticity, then we are naturally able to achieve this point of fulfillment. So through comprehension and witnessing reality, we identify the point of fulfillment. Then through living with authenticity, we are able to achieve that point of fulfillment also.
ही है। इस ढंग से हम जो अनुभव को संप्रेषित करने में समर्थ होने की रास्ता बने। इस रास्ते,
in this way, there is a way for us to easily express realization.
रास्ते के आधार पर हम अपने अनुभवों को मानव परंपरा में अभिव्यक्ति संप्रेषण कर अपने आपन भी तृप्ति पाते हैं। जैसा मैं अपने को तृप्ति पाता हूँ, हम अपने अनुभव को आपके सम्मुख रखकर हम सुखी होना पाते हैं, तृप्त होना पाते हैं। यही हम।
And in this way, there is the system of expressing one's realization within the human tradition. And in doing this, not only do I feel fulfilled means when I am living out my realization in my conduct and expression amidst you all, I feel happiness within myself. I feel fulfilled within myself.
आपके सम्मुख रखकर हम सुखी होना पाते हैं, तृप्त होना पाते हैं। यही हमारा धन है। हमको आपसे थोड़े ही कुछ चाहिए।
That itself is my wealth. It's not that I need something from you.
वस्तु के रूप में कुछ भी नहीं है। आपके सम्मुख रख पाया, यह हमारा तृप्ति की वस्तु है।
The fact that I was able to present this before you, that itself is the object of my fulfillment.
यह हमको मिल गया। किंतु अब आप समझ गए, ये और भी एक उत्सव की बात।
This I have already received, and now if you understand what I had to say, then that is a cause for even further celebration.
यदि नहीं समझ पाए, हमारा तृप्ति हमारे पास रखा है, यह सुरक्षित है.
But even if you are unable to understand, my own fulfillment lies with me. That is protected with me. It still would continue to exist.
ये बात रखा ही है. जब आपको समझने की इच्छा होगा, तब इसको और भी आपके जिज्ञासा के अनुसार स्पष्ट किया जा सकता है. उसके लिए हम कटिबद्ध हैं.
Whenever and if ever you have the need to understand it, then at that point I will be available to explain it to you and according to your curiosities. For that I am completely dedicated.
जिज्ञासा के अनुसार स्पष्ट किया जा सकता है. उसके लिए हम कटिबद्ध हैं. ये कोई जो अनुभव प्रामाणिकता के रूप में संप्रेषित होता है, अभिव्यक्त होता है, इसका जो स्वरूप है, कार्य रूप है, वो जानने मानने की तृप्ति ही है.
So this is all about authenticity based on realization, and its manifestation is in the form of the fulfillment point of knowing and accepting.
जानने मानने की तृप्ति ही अनुभव का नाम से ख्यात है. अनुभव को निरंतर मनुष्य अभिव्यक्त कर, संप्रेषित कर सुखी होता है.
It is the fulfillment point of knowing and acceptance that is known by the name of realization, and in expressing realization, in evidencing realization, humans are eternally found to be happy and fulfilled.
निरंतर मनुष्य अभिव्यक्त कर, संप्रेषित कर सुखी होता है. अभी तक हम इस मुद्दे पर आए, अनुभव को संप्रेषित करने के लिए, अभिव्यक्त करने के लिए भौतिक द्रव्य की आवश्यकता नहीं है.
Okay, before I move on to this, I hope it is clear what he is meaning by knowing and acceptance, these two words. I'm trying to remember if we covered it in the workshop in Hyderabad just now. I don't know, I'm not sure if we did. You can just, we did? Okay. ठीक है.
अभिव्यक्त करने के लिए भौतिक द्रव्य की आवश्यकता नहीं है.
So that was for understanding. I said yes.
Okay. So for this difference between knowing and accepting. So understanding actually is the word given to a combination of both. When you know and accept, then together we call that understanding. But here there's a distinction that we make between something that हमने मान लिया है and हमने जाना है. So something that we have just accepted, it's an acceptance of ours, a belief of ours, versus something that we really truly know, that we can see for ourselves. So that is the distinction being made. And a lot of the things that we live on the basis of are simply acceptances, simply beliefs based on faith, which we haven't actually seen for ourselves, that we don't know for ourselves. So this is the distinction between knowing and accepting, janna and manna.
I think we covered this thing briefly. I recall now.
Okay. So
अभिव्यक्त करने के लिए भौतिक द्रव्य की आवश्यकता नहीं है.
I forgot what he said. भौतिक.
Krishna,
हाँ.
by accepting, you mean living it out.
Yeah. That which
No.
we translate into our actions.
Yeah. And knowing means actually getting it,
Yeah. Seeing it, seeing its principle. Now, no one can convince you, otherwise you see exactly what it is.
Okay.
So once you know something, you can't unknow it. whereas acceptances or beliefs can keep changing. I couldn't make out what he said here. He said something like, we don't need any physical something to express our realization, but I couldn't make out what he said.
ये एक भौतिक द्रव्य की आवश्यकता नहीं के लिए अभिव्यक्त करने के लिए भौतिक द्रव्य की आवश्यकता नहीं.
भौतिक द्रव्य? I'm not sure.
ये एक महिमा संपन्न एक मुद्दा है. अभी तक की हमारा आदर्शवादी विचार के अनुसार ये भी सोचते रहे अनुभव को बताया नहीं जा सकता.
I'm not sure exactly what he said, but I'll put a blank for the word that I couldn't catch. He's saying, so we can see that we do not require any physical blank to evidence our realization, to express our realization. Another thing we have seen is that idealism has claimed that realization cannot be put into words.
विचार के अनुसार ये भी सोचते रहे अनुभव को बताया नहीं जा सकता.
So idealism has also, according to the idealistic thought, they have also thought or believed that we cannot talk about realization.
जो पा गए इस विधि से जीवन को पहचानने के आधार पर जीवन में अनुभव एक अनुस्यूत प्रक्रिया है, उसको प्रमाणित करना मानव परंपरा में ही होता है.
But what I have achieved through this way, on the basis of understanding the Jeevan, is that realization is an innate process of the human being, and evidencing that is only possible in the human tradition.
दूसरा किसी परंपरा में होता नहीं, इसके लिए कोई भौतिक द्रव्य की जरूरत नहीं.
It is not possible in any other tradition. That means in any other species. So the tradition of cows or tradition of lions or whatever. So this process of realization can only be evidenced in the human tradition. And for that, we do not need any physical blank. Again, he said it. Can either of you make out what he said?
परंपरा में होता नहीं, इसके लिए कोई भौतिक द्रव्य की जरूरत नहीं. इसमें केवल समझदारी की ही आवश्यकता.
भौतिक something की
द्रव्य भौतिक
द्रव्य only.
Yeah.
So we don't need any physical substance to evidence or express our understanding.
I thought it was niti.
Huh?
I don't know. Can you play it again? I thought it was niti.
Niti, bhautik niti.
I don't know. Just play it. I don't know if I heard it right at all.
कोई भौतिक द्रव्य की जरूरत नहीं.
I don't.
Riti. Okay.
Riti? I can imagine something like you don't require any physical resources to attain realization, but to express it and to live it out, you need to maintain your body. That is there. So that way we do need physical resources for the body in order to live out or express your realization. Although it does sound like dravya to me also. Let's see, maybe it gets cleared up later on.
इसमें केवल समझदारी की ही आवश्यकता है. समझदारी का पूरा ढांचा खाचा इसके लिए परंपरा में ही होता है, दूसरा किसी परंपरा में होता नहीं. इसके लिए कोई भौतिक द्रव्य की जरूरत नहीं. इसमें केवल समझदारी की ही आवश्यकता है.
Okay, so this realization happens only in the human tradition and not in any other tradition, and there is no need for any physical substance for this. All this requires is understanding.
समझदारी का पूरा ढांचा खाचा बनता है, जानना, मानना, पहचानना और निर्वाह करना ही होता है। इस चार में से जो जानने मानने की तृप्ति बिंदु अनुभव में होता है।
So the entirety of understanding is made up of knowing, acceptance, recognizing, and responding. Of these, knowing and accepting, you reach the fulfillment point of knowing and accepting in realization.
पहचानने निर्वाह करने की बात होती है, उसमें तृप्ति बिंदु पाने के लिए कुछ भौतिक द्रव्य भी होता है। बिंदु अनुभव में होता है। पहचानने निर्वाह करने की बात होती है, उसमें तृप्ति बिंदु पाने के लिए कुछ भौतिक द्रव्य।
Okay, and so then this knowing and realizing, knowing and accepting part of understanding is in realization. The fulfillment point of knowing and acceptance is in realization. Now, when we talk of recognizing and responding, that does involve some physical substances. Whereas the knowing accepting part involves no physical substances. It is completely a mental activity. Okay, now it makes sense.
भी होता है। मुख्य बात ये।
So this is the major point.
ये जो लक्ष्मण रेखा है, जानने मानने की तृप्ति जीवन गति ही होता है और भौतिक गत नहीं है, संवेदन गत नहीं है। ये कुल मिलाकर के मनुष्य की जीवनगत क्रियाकलाप, इसमें भौतिक वस्तु की लवलेश भी लगती नहीं है।
So this is the main point, that this fulfillment point of knowing and acceptance is happening within the Jeevan. It has nothing to do with the body. It has nothing to do with anything physical. And there's something like isme, not even an ounce of physicality touches this process of realization. That is the fulfillment point of knowing and acceptance.
इसमें भौतिक वस्तु की लवलेश भी लगती नहीं है।
Lovelace, what is Lovelace exactly? Do you know? I've never heard this word before.
No.
I'm guessing it just means that not even a reflection or something, not even a shadow of anything physical reaches this process of knowing and acceptance. It's completely mental.
ये कुल मिलाकर के मनुष्य की जीवनगत क्रियाकलाप।
So altogether, this is the activity or process of the Jeevan, solely of the Jeevan of a human being, not even of a Jeevan of any other animal. A human being's Jeevan. Yeah.
I'm told that Lovelace ka meaning is jara sa lagav.
क्या सा लगाव?
Jara sa lagav.
Oh, okay. So, okay, there is not, I guess, what would that mean? There is no pull. There is not even an ounce of slight attraction towards the physical in this process of realization, I guess. Well, it's not even drawn to the physical even a little bit. It is quite disconnected from the physical, this process. That is what I can make out of this meaning of Lovelace.
इसमें भौतिक वस्तु की लवलेश भी लगती नहीं है। इसको भले प्रकार से देखा गया है, समझा गया है, जिया गया है और आजमाया गया है, प्रमाणित की गई है। एक तो
So this has been thoroughly seen, understood, lived out, tested out, and evidenced. The fact that realization is not in the least associated with physicality.
मुख्य मुद्दा ये है।
That is the main point.
पहचानने निर्वाह करने की बात उस जगह में आती है व्यवस्था में जीने की जगह में.
So now this topic of recognition and response arises in the place, in the context of living in orderliness.
व्यवस्था में जीने की तुरंत बाद ही हमारे पास पहचानने और निर्वाह करने की बात आ जाती है.
On immediately upon living in orderliness, we attain this recognition and response capacity, capability, I would say.
पहचानने निर्वाह करने के क्रम में हम मानव के साथ ही होता है. मानव परंपरा में ही ये बात होती है. तो ये बात इसीलिए हम इंगित कराना चाहते हैं, मानव परंपरा में ही अभौतिक वस्तु को मानव परंपरा में संप्रेषणा और प्रकाश माने अभिव्यक्ति किया जाना प्रमाणित है. मैं स्वयं प्रमाणित हूँ, इस बात को इंगित कराना चाहते हैं.
So this recognition and response occurs within the purview of human beings. It is only in the human tradition that this occurs. This is an important point that I want to draw attention to, that the recognition and response of the immaterial, the non-material reality, its recognition, response, that is its expression and its evidence, all of that occurs only within the human tradition.
तो ये बात इसीलिए हम इंगित कराना चाहते हैं, मानव परंपरा में ही अभौतिक वस्तु को मानव परंपरा में संप्रेषणा और प्रकाश माने अभिव्यक्ति किया जाना प्रमाणित है. मैं स्वयं प्रमाणित हूँ, इस बात को इंगित कराना चाहते हैं.
Right. So it is the recognition and response of the immaterial, the non-material reality is only evidenced within the human tradition. I myself am evidence of that. And that is what I would like to establish before you.
मैं स्वयं प्रमाणित हूँ, इस बात को इंगित कराना चाहते हैं. इसमें कोई भौतिक वस्तु लगती नहीं है, जबकि वही जब व्यवस्था में जीने जाते हैं, संबंध आते हैं, मूल्य आता है, मानवतापूर्ण आचरण आता है और चरित्र आता है, सभी कुछ आता है और उसी के साथ साथ संपूर्ण वस्तुओं का नियोजन भी आती है.
So this is what I want to indicate to you, that this realization requires no physical object. Whereas when we go about living in order, in orderliness, that is when relationships are present. That is where values are present. The living out of values is present. Character is present. What else did he say? Policy is present.
और उसी के साथ साथ संबंध आते हैं, मूल्य आता है, मानवतापूर्ण आचरण आता है और चरित्र आता है, सभी कुछ आता है और उसी के साथ साथ संपूर्ण वस्तुओं का नियम.
So it is when we go about living in order that relationships are present, where values are present, humane conduct is present, character is present, and all of these things are present in living out order, living in orderliness. And it is in that context that the what is it? Niyojan, what is the word for niyojan in English? The delegation of all resources is also done. So all our resources, all physical resources or physical objects are utilized, are delegated in context of relationships, values, humane conduct, character, all of this. So that is where the physical aspect becomes relevant. But for realization, the physical is not relevant. It is only in living out orderliness based on realization that the physical objects become relevant, because you will employ physical objects or physical resources towards your relationships, towards living in good character, living with humane conduct, etc.
नियोजन भी आती है, तन मन धन रूपी अर्थ का वो नियोजन रहता है.
So we will delegate all our resources, that is the resources of our body, our mind and our material wealth.
अनुभव में मन का कोई नियोजन होती नहीं है और सीधा सीधा मन का एक उत्सव होता है. मन जो है ना, अनुभव से उत्सवित होकर मन संसार को बता देता है. क्या?
In realization, there is no employment of the man. Man, if we remember, is the outermost orbit of the Jeevan. So there is no employment of the man for realization. All that occurs in the man in realization is that it celebrates. So the realization is happening and the man celebrates, and upon celebrating, it also tells the rest of the world.
क्या बात, क्या
How wonderful is this?
बात. उत्सवित होने के लिए मैंने आत्मा ही उसका मूल तत्व रहता है. आत्मा की महिमा ही मुग्ध होने की वस्तु रहता है, अनुभव करने की वस्तु रहता है और उसको उसी उत्सवित होने का वस्तु रहती है. फलस्वरूप मन मानव को अर्पित कर देता है.
So behind the celebration, the fundamental element responsible for it is the Atma. So Atma is the nucleus of the Jeevan. So it is this Atma's grandeur, this Atma's capacity that allows for this realization.
की वस्तु रहता है और उसको उसी उत्सवित होने का वस्तु रहती है. फलस्वरूप मन मानव को अर्पित कर देता है.
And that becomes the reason for celebration, and consequently the man receives the celebration and dedicates it to the human being. So the Jeevan has the Atma and the man, and the Jeevan is running the body. So the combination of the body and the Jeevan together is the human being. So the celebration is happening only in the Jeevan, but it dedicates it to the entirety of this unit called the human being, and then to the human tradition also.
इतना ज्यादा उत्सवित होता है, फलस्वरूप अर्पित करना होता ही है. आप हम भी इस बात को एक छोटे स्तर पर भी सोचते हैं. जिस वक्त हमारे पास
So the man becomes so is in such a great state of celebration that it cannot help but dedicate that celebration to the human being. This is something we can also understand on a smaller scale.
बहुत ज्यादा होता है. कोई भी वस्तु भी किसी स्तर पर भी सोचते हैं. जिस वक्त हमारे पास बहुत ज्यादा होता है, कोई भी वस्तु भी किसी को अर्पित करने की मन होता है.
Whenever we have an abundance of any, even some physical object, we feel the need to dedicate it to someone else, to give it to someone else.
उसी बात ही अनुभव एक इतनी बड़ी भारी संपदा है जो मन समाये संभलता नहीं है. फलस्वरूप अनुभव को व्यक्त करना शुरू कर देता है.
Similarly, realization is such a huge resource, in a manner of speaking, that the man cannot contain it, no matter how much it tries. It has to share it with others.
ऐसा मैंने देखा है, मैंने ऐसा समझा है, मैंने ऐसा अनुभव किया है. ये मेरा प्रामाणिकता की मुद्दा है.
I have seen this. This is what I have understood. This is what I have realized. And this is a topic of my authenticity or my evidence.
और जो विगत के बड़े बुजुर्गों के अनुसार अनुभव को बताया नहीं जा सकता.
Now, according to the elders of the past, realization is not something that can be shared in words.
इसमें किस चीज को हम माना जाए, कम से कम अध्ययन के लिए तत्पर तो होना पड़ता है। हम
So of these, which one should we believe? He's saying one is my own experience, where, you know, when you have realization, you cannot help but share it. You cannot help but express it. And the other is the traditional view, where they're saying that realization cannot be shared. It cannot be expressed. So which of these two should we believe? He's saying now, if we have to study, if we have to dedicate ourselves to study, if we have to study, we have to dedicate ourselves to some study, right?
अनुभवों को प्रकाशित करना चाहते हैं कि नहीं चाहते हैं, अनुभवों को संप्रेषित करना चाहते हैं कि नहीं चाहते हैं, मानव के साथ ये संवाद किया जाए तो पता लगता है अनुभवों को बताना चाहते हैं। अनुभव किस चीज को हम माना जाए, कम से कम अध्ययन के लिए तत्पर तो होना पड़ता है। हम अनुभवों को प्रकाशित करना चाहते हैं कि नहीं चाहते हैं, अनुभवों को संप्रेषित करना चाहते हैं कि नहीं चाहते हैं, मानव के साथ ये संवाद किया जाए।
Okay, so which of these should we believe? We must dedicate ourselves to studying that. Basically, to choose one thing to believe, we must study which is worthy of believing. So he says, how do we do that? When we go about asking whether they want to shed light on realization or not, whether they want to express realization or not,
चाहते हैं कि नहीं चाहते हैं, मानव के साथ ये संवाद किया जाए।
so then we need to ask these two questions on whether or not we want to shed light on realization, whether or not we want to express realization. And in this way, we must hold this conversation among human beings, because that will tell us which of the two, this is how I am interpreting what he's saying, that it is only upon doing such a survey can we decide which of the two opinions or experiences of realization are worth pursuing.
जाए तो पता लगता है अनुभवों को बताना चाहते हैं। यही
So upon doing this survey, we find that they do want to express realization.
उत्तर निकलता है। तो बड़े बुजुर्गों का कहना है, किताब का कहना है, अनुभव को बताया नहीं जा सकता।
So that is the only answer we find on doing this survey. But now, according to the elders, according to the traditional texts and books, realization cannot be expressed.
यह सब मानव इच्छा से विपरीत जाना स्वाभाविक हो गई। इसी का उत्तर में शायद मानव का पुण्य से अनुभव को सदा सदा ठोक बजाऊ विधि से प्रस्तुत किया जा सकता है।
So that way, that conclusion is found to be in contradiction to natural human desire. So perhaps on that basis, in order to keep the human desire or to meet the human desire, now it has become possible to express realization in a loud and clear and confident way.
पुण्य से अनुभव को सदा
Perhaps thanks to this need or desire of humans, and thanks to human goodwill, punya, it has become possible.
सदा ठोक बजाऊ विधि से प्रस्तुत किया जा सकता है। ये निष्पन्न हो गए।
Thanks to this goodwill of human beings and this need of human beings, it has now become possible to loudly, clearly, and confidently present the realization. And that has already happened.
ये एक घटना के रूप में सम्मुख तो हो चुकी है।
So this, at least as in the form of one event, has become prevalent.
अनुभव के पश्चात आता है, अनुभवों को हम प्रमाणों के रूप में प्रस्तुत करते हैं.
Now, after realization comes the fact that we present realization in the form of evidences.
अभी तक क्या प्रमाण हुआ नहीं है, ये पूछा जाए तो यंत्र प्रमाण के रूप में.
So, has there been no evidence before this? That has been asked. So, to answer that,
हुआ है, वस्तु प्रमाण के रूप में हुआ है, उपयोगिता प्रमाण के रूप में अभी तक हम पहचाने प्रमाण के रूप में. तो यंत्र प्रमाण के रूप में हुआ है, वस्तु प्रमाण के रूप में हुआ है, उपयोगिता प्रमाण के रूप में अभी तक हम पहचाने. तो हम सत्य को प्रमाणित कर चुके, ऐसा कोई प्रमाण हुआ नहीं.
so we have had tools as evidence or equipment as evidence. We have had objects as evidence. But utility as evidence is, I couldn't really understand actually what he's saying.
सत्य को प्रमाणित कर चुके, ऐसा कोई प्रमाण हुआ नहीं. सत्य को हुआ है, वस्तु प्रमाण के रूप में हुआ है, उपयोगिता प्रमाण के रूप में अभी तक हम पहचाने.
Okay, so I think what he's saying is the evidence up till now has been in the form of evidence of equipment. That means evidence based on measurements done by equipments, and that has been an evidence of objects. That has been some sort of evidence of utility of objects. But have we been able to evidence truth? That has not happened yet. So how I understand this is that, you can check, you can verify and test, in that sense, evidence whether a sack full of grain is equal to 1 quintal or not. Is it or is it not 1 quintal? You can weigh it on a measuring scale and everyone can verify it for themselves. Yes, it is 1 quintal of grain. So in that way, we have figured out ways of verifying material objects using different types of equipment, whether we are testing for weight, height, weight, length, density, or any sort of physical measurement. We can check out. We can check out the heat something is emitting, the electrical charge it emits, all of these sort of things. Based on equipment, we have been able to come up with some sort of universal verifying procedure for material objects and therefore the utility that they can be put to. But we have not come up with any sort of way to evidence or verify truth. That is what I understand from this.
तो हम सत्य को प्रमाणित कर चुके, ऐसा कोई प्रमाण हुआ नहीं. यंत्र प्रमाण परिवर्तनशील है, ये बात सच्चाई है, तो इसको सत्य माना जाए, नहीं सत्य माना जाए. अविज्ञानी स्वयं कहते हैं ये उपलब्धि अंतिम सत्य नहीं है. अंतिम सत्य के पहले कौन सा सत्य है, ये किसी को पता नहीं है.
So now this evidence through equipment, that is susceptible to change. Scientists themselves claim or declare that you cannot consider these to be the ultimate truth. So what sort of truth exists before ultimate truth, that can also be, that has also not been understood.
अंतिम सत्य नहीं है. अंतिम सत्य के पहले कौन सा सत्य है, ये किसी को पता नहीं है.
So scientists themselves say that the validation we find based on equipment is not the ultimate truth, and what is the truth that comes before ultimate truth is something that no one really knows. Is there anything? There would be an ultimate truth. No, nothing, no truth before that.
थोड़ा सा धीरे से सोचने पर ऐसा लगता है इसको भी सोचा जा सकता है.
So on thinking about this slowly and carefully, we realize that this is also something worth thinking about. That if equipment, like, say there's the Big Bang theory, or the theory of relativity. How is it evidenced? It is evidenced. It is evidenced through experimental observations done by equipment, but those themselves are susceptible to change, and scientists themselves claim that that is not the ultimate verification, that is not the ultimate validation or the ultimate truth of that theory. So if that is not the ultimate truth, even they acknowledge, then is that theory true or not? What is the truth of that theory then, he is saying. So therefore, we can say that there has been no evidencing of any truth.
तो अंतिम सत्य, पहला सत्य, मध्य का सत्य और समीप का सत्य, दूर का सत्य, इन सत्यों को कैसा समझा जाए? ये एक बहुत बड़ी भारी दुर्गुता की बात हो गई है.
So we must think about this. How do we understand this ultimate truth, first truth, medium truth, second truth, far away truth, all of these truths? How are we to understand the differences between all of these? This has also become a big issue, a conundrum to fathom within popular discourse. It's almost time, so I'm wondering if we should pause, and then if there are any thoughts or questions, we can do that for a little bit. We have 1 minute left.
I think we are good. I just have a different question here, if I can ask.
Mm-hmm.
So I was reading that other book, right? Briefly, and in that book, I think there was one paragraph Babaji kind of put together space, God, Paramatma as a single thing. They're all equal, right? So, and then of course, when I kind of read Kabir, right, that in that we say that that famous dohe that he has, right, that मोह कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे मैं तो तेरे पास हूँ, correct? मोह को कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे मैं तो तेरे पास में हूँ, right? So then I'm trying to kind of connect. I mean, these things can connect together, right? So one is even Babaji is kind of putting together these things like God is there, but what is God is a space, is an energy, correct? And that's something which I don't know, we don't kind of do any kind of puja to that or something like this. Kind of, if we just put them in our day-to-day, if we understand that, that's what this thing, like, if we understand that thing entirely, what he's trying to convey, that is kind of doing a justice to it, I believe.
There is kind of
justice to it, right? Yeah. That is what. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So there's no question per se here, but I'm just trying to see. This is what I'm trying to connect things. Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine, when he's seen all of this, when he's realized this reality and seen, okay, what are the entities that exist? He can see that these are the two kinds of entities that exist. There is a unit kind of entity, unitary entity, and then there is this all-pervasive entity. And then he understands the grandeur of this all-pervasive entity. Now, when he has to give names to it, he finds that, in tradition, we already have certain entities that match the properties of this entity that Baba saw. The fact that it is everywhere, within us, outside of us, connecting all of us, everywhere, all the time, exactly the same. He found that we have recognized the existence of such an entity in tradition, and we have given it the name God. But we have also ascribed other properties to this thing that we call God, that he keeps clarifying. You see, that the fact that it is all pervasive is true, but it is no doer, it is no creator, it is no destroyer, it is no understander, it is no seer. None of those properties can be associated with it. So he is doing the right placement of those concepts while clarifying the little overestimations that we had done in tradition before that. So the words he's kept the same and given the reason also, like in that chapter, in that paragraph only he explains, because it's even subtler than the most subtle thing, Atma. Therefore, it is Paramatma. So because it is even subtler than the Atma, therefore Paramatma. Because it is the basis of all activity, therefore it is Satta, therefore it is potence, omnipotence. Similarly, he's justified all the other words that he has used for it. But yeah, you can place a lot of things have been recognized in the idealistic tradition, but of course we've had a bit of estimation, underestimation, complete misses also, which have been kind of tailored, adjusted.
Right.
Manjuji, anything?
Oh, 1 second. Takes me time. Yeah. Oh, you could hear me, huh? Acha. This thing about complete truth, I still feel like believing we are going towards the truth. Each chapter, each session, some more clarity, some more evidencing. So this thing bothers me, but I'll live with it.
The fact that we haven't reached the truth yet.
Not reached, but we are at least on the journey and progress to ho raha hai. You deny the progress in a way, no? You're saying it's there or not there, no? Kind of thing. You said
it's like, imagine this is the truth and you're going around it but coming closer. So have you reached the truth? You can't say I've reached the truth unless you've actually reached the truth. But you can judge that, am I coming closer or further? I mean, that is a rough metaphor I can give.
Something like that. There is some thing. Okay. That means we'll have to wait for that. How to know whether you got it? Obviously, the question itself means you haven't got it.
Yeah, but also how to move towards getting it better is by focusing on that nyay, justice first. Because see, the way to truth is through justice and order, right? So first we will understand justice, we will understand relationships and values, and that sort of, because there is a certain sort of permanence and eternality that we can experience through justice in our relationships. Otherwise, we're volatile, we're shaky in our relationships, right? Sometimes like this, sometimes like that, completely affected, unaffected, giving, generous, not generous, kind, unkind, affectionate, then affection also withers away. So that is very unstable. Truth is that which is eternally, permanently, completely stable. So for us, the first glimpse of truth is through justice, where our internal state of values remains steady with the relationships that we are part of. So, with our friends, our family, if we can establish the state of balance of values, that is justice.
So
and
why
first step towards truth.
Please. So why isn't there a book or a chapter of with typical dialogues or examples of relationships? Like a person is asking, I mean, this thing, and there's an answer in that. So then from there one can learn exactly. Maybe it's not valid, exact situations not valid in everybody's life, but from there you can. Now we have just this boundary, this borderline, this overall impression, good and bad, justice, and it's good. I mean, you get it. You have more, but there's so many exact points where you wouldn't know what to, which is because we don't know what exactly is justice.
No, I mean, I feel like it's described quite well, like in quite a lot of detail. But I think what we are looking for right now and what you're saying is like, I'm imagining a comparison with a maths book. When it's explaining the concepts to you, it gives you a principle, it gives you the formulae, it gives you why the formulae exist the way they do and how the principles fit in with other principles. And now based on that, you can have millions and millions of different kinds of problems to be solved, right?
Yeah, but some could be. When we taught maths, we were not just given a formula. We had to do exercises, no? Get it.
No. Once we get it, we do the exercise. And of course, the exercise tells us whether we got it or not. But we cannot hope to understand the concept based on exercise. You can't have just exercises that will explain
the concept, and then you want to check it out, no?
Yeah.
Have you got it? Or are you, because we tend to think we are right and the other may be wrong, obviously. But obviously everybody thinks that. So obviously if you thought you were wrong, you would do something about it. The question would be not there.
Right.
So you assume you're right, even if you're willing to agree to the other person sometimes and agree that, okay, the other person's right.
Yeah.
Even though you think you're right, but never mind. But even then, there's not justice because you're still feeling in your back, okay, I'm agreeing, but I'm not really convinced. So authenticity is not there.
Yeah. So it's not about who is right and who is wrong. It is about seeing, okay, what was complete in my view, what was incomplete in my view, what was complete in the other's view, what is incomplete. If there is a disagreement, then clearly both of us have not understood the right thing. Why? Because if I understood the full right thing, that would subsume all incomplete versions of the right thing also, right? So I would be able to understand where the other person is coming from. I wouldn't feel perturbed by it then. I would be able to help them.
Even if you're not feeling perturbed, you wonder, should I change my thinking? Maybe my thinking is wrong. That questions come up, no?
Yeah, but see, that will only happen when you have some sort of unclarity on why the other person is disagreeing. Whereas if you have the complete understanding, you will be able to see, even if someone before you has an incomplete understanding of something, you will be able to see, oh, they're able to see this much, but this aspect of it, they have evaluated. For instance, when you understand the whole math concept, when the teacher understands the concept and the child with an incomplete understanding of it does a math problem, the teacher is able to check, oh, this concept of the child was lacking. They didn't know how to multiply 2-digit whatever numbers, or they had forgotten the Pythagoras theorem actually, and that is why they couldn't apply it. Otherwise, the rest of it was fine. This was the only error, and that they can explain to the student then. So if you are finding, basically, if you are finding that you are not able to see transparently where the other person is coming from, that means your own understanding is also lacking. That is a good check. So then you can take the help of the other. They are seeing one part of the issue, you are seeing another part, you can try to synthesize.
Ask me, is it clear? I'll say no. So there is, but I'll go with it. I'll just go with it because obviously I probably need to understand more. I'll leave it like that. But you're missing my point, I feel, because you bring in maths and that is totally irrelevant. Where I am.
How?
Because where I am, the maths is something else altogether.
See, it's about general and particular.
But it's not, it's totally my psyche doesn't accept maths in this thing. So, but I'll go with it because you're answering me the way you can answer, and I'm not getting it, so I can't get it right. Okay. Maths is a totally clear-cut formula thing, and it works.
So is this. That's what he's saying. It is exactly very clear-cut. There are 7 relations. So we haven't understood the fact that there is a system, there are laws to relationships also. They are not vague, they are not mysterious, they are not random. There is, just like math, there is clear, understandable principles for all relationships. That is, when we understand that, then we can see how to apply those principles when we are living in our relationships. I think you're muted.
Yeah, because in a way it comes to an end.
I couldn't hear you. You were muted for the most of that.
No, I said, yeah, it's okay because this conversation has come also to this point and come to an end. And again, it is there and it ends because it's.
ठीक है, ठीक है, ठीक है, ठीक है. Let it be for now. Yeah. Maybe if you were to do a full workshop, it'll become a bit more clearer because we do go into it in some detail in there.
The one I did, I had the same issue, but that's okay. But that was only one.
And that was also not full, na? And it was in Hindi, so that would have been different.
Ask me, is it clear? I'll say no. So there is, but I'll go with it. I'll just go with it because obviously I probably need to understand more. I'll leave it like that. But you're missing my point, I feel, because you bring in maths and that is totally irrelevant. Where I am.
How?
Because where I am, maths is something else altogether different.
See, it's about general and particular.
But it's not, it's totally my psyche doesn't accept maths in this thing. So, but I'll go with it because you're answering me the way you can answer, and I'm not getting it, so I can't get it right. But for me, maths is a totally clear-cut formula thing, and it works.
So is this. That's what he's saying. It is exactly very clear-cut. There are 7 relations. So we haven't understood the fact that there is a system, there are laws to relationships also. They are not vague, they are not mysterious, they are not random. There is, just like maths, there is clear, understandable principles for all relationships. That is, when we understand that, then we can see how to apply those principles when we are living in our relationships. I think you're muted.
Yeah, because in a way it comes to an end.
I couldn't hear you. You were muted for the most of that.
No, I said, yeah, it's okay because this conversation has come also to this point and come to an end. And again, it is there and it ends because it's.
ठीक है. Let it be for now. Yeah. Maybe if you were to do a full workshop, it'll become a bit more clearer because we do go into it in some detail in there.
The one I did, I had the same issue, but that's okay. But that was only one.
And that was also not full, na? And it was in Hindi, so that would have been difficult for you also.
I